Mm-hmm.
We got to Honolulu about the 14th or 15th of March, and we sat on board for several days right in the harbor. And we knew that things were really going down the tube in the Philippines. Well, we knew that there weren't very many battleships around to protect us if we were going to go east of there, or west of there.
And this was after Pearl Harbor was attacked?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us that when the Japs attacked Pearl Harbor, they also attacked Hickam Field and a couple of other airfields. When by nightfall, they didn't tell everybody, but the Japs turned around and left after doing all the damage to the fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was on edge that first night, December 7th.
Right. Had you two met at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was back in New York,
Mm-hmm.
where we had met.
So you had met prior to him going down to Alabama then?
Yep.
Okay.
We said goodbye, yeah, when he went to Alabama. I mean, we were just dating, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody was on edge. And somebody on guard duty in Hickam Field would hear a noise and he'd call halt, there'd be no reaction, so he'd fire a shot. That would start, like the 4th of July, everything went up. Anti-aircraft, what have you. So it's like the 4th of July, then very quietly it would settle down again. And that happened a couple of times during the night.
Oh, gee.
Mm.
I remember hearing that.
We were on the Aquitania in the harbor at Honolulu for St. Patty's Day. And all the way across from San Francisco, everybody was cold sober, never even talked about any liquor or beer.
Right.
And on St. Patty's Day, almost every Irishman on board was drunk. We had one fellow named Mike Hogan, and he was up on the top deck, and he kept looking way up at the mast. And they said, "What are you looking at, Mike?" He said, "That British Union Jack up there. I'm gonna go up and tear it down." So he headed for this giant mast, and everybody grabbed him.
Because he was drunk to begin with.
Yeah. A couple of guys were enjoying the sunshine up on one of the top decks, and they were way back aft, and you could see straight down into the harbor. And they were reminiscing about a movie that John Hall had been in. At one point he was way up on a high cliff and he did a beautiful dive right down into the ocean. And the one fellow said, "I could do that." And the other fellow said, "If you do, I'll follow you." And the third fellow said, "I can't even dive, but I'll follow both of you."
I hope you can swim.
So many people heard about this that there was quite a spectator group. And the first guy did a beautiful job, swan dive. The second one did a good job. The third guy went running off into space and his legs going all the way down. And they swam over to the dock again, and there was a ladder there. And they climbed up the ladder, and here they are dripping. And they walked back to the center portion of the ship where there was a gangway back on board. And someone, an MP said, "Where do you think you're going?" And they all three said, "We're going back on board." "No, you're not. Nobody's allowed on board." So they said, "Okay," turned around and headed downtown to look for a bar. And some second Louis came out and spotted what was going on. He started shouting, "Stop those men! Stop those men!" It was a farce.
So
Anyway, they finally took us off the Aquitania and put us on a naval vessel. And that took us down to Hawaii, the biggest island.
Mm-hmm.
And we lined up for chow. And it was gorgeous. It was a compartmentalized tray. The food was delicious. It was
Were
excellent.
you still on the ship? Oh, the Navy
The
ship.
Navy ship. And we had been 5 days with the British, more than 5 days, with the British food. Because we had so many men on the Aquitania, that a chow line would start very early in the morning and go until almost noontime.
Tell them
And
what
there
you
was-
got to eat off that chow line.
Get a slice of bread, a slice of tomato, and a cup of hot tea. And the hot tea would practically eat the inside of the aluminum cup that you had. That was repeated late afternoon into evening. Because so many men, it took a long time to feed all
Now,
of
this
the
is the British food?
British
Yeah.
British ship.
That's not much.
No. The same food on the second chow line
Yeah.
that you got on the first one.
bread, sliced tomato, hot tea.
Keep
So,
biting
so
and
there were-
swallowing.
so when we got on the Navy ship,
Right.
They thought they died and went to heaven.
Potatoes and gravy and meat.
excellent. But it didn't take too long to get down to the big island of Hawaii, to Hilo. And I guess our trucks had preceded us. I don't know what, but somehow we got up on the hill to Hilo High School, and we were quartered in the gymnasium. And they built double-decker bunks in the gymnasium. And there were frames, and you would have an army convict canvas cot, upper and lower. And it was always so warm in Hawaii, you didn't need blankets.
Mm-hmm.
All we had was mosquito netting around.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And we started to build a road across the island. The island was about 200 miles around. And they wanted, in the event of combat, they wanted to be able to take a shortcut, as it were.
Right.
The road was going to go between two volcanoes that were 13,000 feet high. And the saddle of the volcanoes was about 6,800 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to Hawaii?
Never.
And we had different different crews. We'd have demolition crews out in front to roughly break up the road area. And then we'd have other crews that would bring in partially broken up lava rock. And then we had rollers like steamrollers that would flatten it. And by the time they flattened it, you could do about 50 miles an hour on it. No blacktop or anything like that.
Right.